All right, guys, let's talk about star defensive player of the Las Vegas Raiders, Maxx Crosby, and the thought of the Green Bay Packers possibly trading for Crosby. The past couple of weeks for Packers fans have really been filled with a bunch of trade rumors and trade speculation on whether the Packers should go out and trade for a superstar player. Last week, we heard Myles Garrett has requested a trade, and a lot of Packers fans said, hey, give up whatever it takes to go get Myles Garrett. There's also rumors of Micah Parsons potentially being traded, or a receiver such as Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Devonta Adams. We went over all these players on our channel, so today I wanted to go over the thought of trading for Maxx Crosby if you're the Green Bay Packers. As we can all agree that the Packers need to bolster their edge rushing group to get someone opposite Rashawn Gary to consistently get home and after the quarterback with their front four, which they slightly struggled with back in 2024, although it was a much better defense in 2024 under Jeff Hafley than it was in 23 and 22 under Barry. And Rappaport and Tom Pelissero a couple days ago examining futures of Cowboys Micah Parsons, Raiders Maxx Crosby, and other pass rushers in potentially wild 2025 offseason. So we're talking about star edge rushers potentially being traded. We already mentioned Myles Garrett in a video last week. We haven't talked about Micah Parsons. Maybe I can do a video on that, but I just see Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons as being way too steep of a price, and I think the Packers will get outbid if a team does trade for either of those players, whereas Maxx Crosby kind of falls in that area. Okay, this could be affordable for the Green Bay Packers, plus there's some ties here, right? With Rich Bisaccia, and Maxx Crosby has openly said he loves Rich Bisaccia before. So reading this article on Maxx Crosby, it says, still only 27, Crosby has said before he wants to be a quote-unquote Raider for life and has been loyal to the organization. He's also been open about his frustrations with the team's seemingly endless string of changes and mounting losses. Crosby wants to win and be a big reason behind this success. While the hiring of Super Bowl winner Pete Carroll was a step towards stability, the Raiders still don't have a franchise quarterback and have a ton of work to do to field a competitive roster. Trading Crosby for a bounty of picks would be one way to expedite that process, and Crosby might welcome the change, particularly if it's to a playoff team where he knows people. Example, Green Bay. That's very important that just Green Bay was listed here in this article. Crosby has 2 years and about $44 million remaining on the contract extension he signed in 2022. So, interestingly, Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero are talking about Maxx Crosby and the potential of being traded, and said particularly if it's to a playoff team where he knows people, that might entice him to be traded or accept a trade, or the Raiders to trade him for draft capital. And it's listed as just Green Bay. It's not just, okay, Green Bay and here's 3 other teams that it might work out with. It's just Green Bay. So not that that's any solidified news that the Packers are going to trade for Maxx Crosby, but it seems like the avenue is kind of lining up at this point. Last week, Crosby was on a podcast, PFT Live, and Crosby admitted that he experienced some frustration amid the Raiders' struggles this season, saying, quote, I've had doubts in the past. I feel like this past year was the hardest part of my career, battling through injury the whole year, struggling, losing 10 games in a row. Up here, it makes you start questioning a lot of things. While that statement could lead some to speculate that Crosby would welcome a trade, he also said in the same interview that he is, quote, the most optimistic I've been about the Raiders' direction since he joined the organization as a 4th-round pick back in 2019. So I think the general thing you can take from Crosby's statements is that he is at least questioning things. I don't think he's going to go on record and say, oh, I don't want to be a Raider, or I'm not optimistic, because he's signed with the Raiders through 2027. So it would be really, not smart of him to go on record and say that. Saying anything against the Raiders would insinuate I'm requesting for a trade here. But as it stated in the Rappaport article, I think if he was sent to a playoff contending team where he has ties with them, Rich Bisaccia, he would welcome that trade. And guys, Maxx Crosby would transform this defense. Still 27 years old. As it stated, drafted to the Raiders in 2019 in the 4th round, 6'5", 255 pounds. Somewhat of a down year in 2024, but as he stated in his interview, he struggled a lot, playing injured most of the season. But outside of this year, he's been a very reliable edge defender. This year, he had a 74.1 overall grade, good run defense, good pass rush grade, 25 solo tackles, 10 assists, 26 27 stops, 8 sacks, 54 total pressures. And that 54 total pressures would lead the Packers overall in terms of defensive pressures. Played in 766 snaps. We can go back and look at the grades of 2023. He had a 92.1. He had 15 sacks, 94 total pressures. That's the type of player you're getting in the building if you trade for Maxx Crosby. Go back to 2022, a 90.1 grade, 15 sacks, 81 total pressures. Back to 2021, a 91.4 grade, right? 10 sacks, 101 total pressures, which was first in the NFL in pressures, hits, and hurries. So you get the point. Maxx Crosby has been a premier pass rusher for the past few seasons, although slightly of a down year in 2024, but there's no doubt what Maxx Crosby is or could be for this Packers defense. Your next question may be, what would the contract look like, or what does the contract look like, and how would that transfer over to the Green Bay Packers? So as it stated earlier, he signed a 4-year, $94 million contract with the Raiders in 2022 with $53 million in guarantees. So we look at his contract over the next couple of years where he's signed through 2025 and 2026. This year for the Raiders, he'll have a $27 million cap hit, and next year a $24 million cap hit. To put that into perspective, Rashawn Gary has a $25 million cap hit this year, 28 in 2026, and $31 million in 2027. And I think a lot of us would agree that Maxx Crosby at this moment in time is a better overall pass rusher than Rashawn Gary. So if the Raiders were to trade Maxx Crosby, the Packers would be on the hook for these remaining 2 years. So if we go in here on Spot Track and we choose the Las Vegas Raiders and we select Maxx Crosby and process that trade, he would account to the Packers salary cap hit this year in 2025 as $22.88 million. Very, very affordable for the type and caliber of player you're getting in Maxx Crosby. And the Packers have $44 million in cap space. So even going and getting Maxx Crosby, they'd still have $22 million in cap space, and that would be without touching any other deal. They could then restructure Rashawn Gary to free up a little bit more money if they want to go, say, sign a couple free agents. They could do the same with Rashawn Gary. They could even clear some money, push it out to the future with Jordan Love. They have a lot of different options here. The Packers have money in 2025, and they can make moves in this 2025 offseason. Now, the trade compensation would be the next question. Now, that value right now is yet to be seen. And if the Raiders even trade Maxx Crosby, then we'll see what that value is. But I'm sure it would cost premium draft picks, such as a first-round pick or a second-round pick. Or maybe the Packers could package someone like Jair Alexander and a decent draft pick with him to trade for Maxx Crosby. Now, usually player-to-player trades don't happen. This isn't Madden, I understand that. But the Packers are potentially looking to get rid of Jair Alexander and his contract, and potentially looking to go get a premier edge rusher. So maybe it would fit that way. The Raiders have a ton of cap space, so that's not a problem for them. But that's another reason why maybe they just simply don't want to trade Maxx Crosby. But I feel like, you know, Crosby still has a chance to be traded this offseason. And if not this offseason, if the Raiders start out horribly again this season, I could totally see Maxx Crosby requesting a trade before the trade deadline. So that's why I see this one a little bit more realistic. Now, Myles Garrett did request a trade. We know he wants out of Cleveland. I just think the Packers are going to be outbid. I think Brian Gutekunst will be in on the conversation, and I would love for him to go out and send whatever it'll cost for Myles Garrett, get him on this defense, transform this defense even more. But I think Maxx Crosby, or even someone like Trey Hendrickson, is just much more of a realistic option. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Again, there's no official rumor that Maxx Crosby has requested to be traded, but there definitely is the option there. And if someone were to call the Raiders organization and offer a package that the Raiders found enticing, I could see it happening. But I do appreciate you guys coming by to the channel. Please leave a like down below if you did like the video. Go click subscribe to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers this offseason. And a reminder to check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 at sign up for a 150% deposit match. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.